Hey everybody, it's Rachel with SOAPothecary and thanks for tuning into my channel. Today's video is going to be about my first ever participation in this month's Soap Challenge Club's Column Pour Challenge. I had attempted this design probably about 6 times and failed miserably, so I'm excited that I was finally able to do something or create a design that I was happy with. The point of this challenge is to pour your soap down some sort of column in a slab mold, which you'll see here in a few moments, and it leaves behind a really beautiful design. For this video, I've already measured out my oils and my colorants. I have a video on how I disperse my colors and I'll link that below. But for today's video, I wanted to keep this nice and brief. Before, I was using a Coca-Cola bottle, about a 20-ounce bottle, and for some reason the design kept getting muddied and just a mess. So this time I decided to use this really pretty glass vase that I had sitting on my counter staring at me in the face for the last couple of weeks. And I'm excited about it because it's got all of these different grooves, and you'll see it's got about the same width as the Coca-Cola bottle, so it should work pretty much the same, but the design's going to be way cooler. So here's my custom sized tall skinny mold. It makes about 9 bars, and ignore the oil on the sides of the mold. That's just from previous soap batter leaking a little bit onto the wood. Right now I'm just going to place my column into the mold so that I can show about how much space around the column we're going to be working with. It's enough space to still be able to see really cool pattern once we start pouring our 6 different colors here. And I have here a glass rod that you'll see me pick up here in just a couple seconds. And that's what I'm going to be using to swirl the design manually at the very end so that we can get a really cool effect going on. So for this particular design, we need our oils and lye solution to be cool. So the oils clocked in about 83 and the lye was at about 81 degrees. That's perfect for my particular design. I have found that the cooler the temperatures are with both of those things, the slower moving that the batter is going to be. And what I'm going to do is just lightly whisk the oils and lye solution together. I like to get it a little bit mixed prior to using the stick blender so that I don't over stick blend. I kind of visually make this decision on how long to stick blend when I whisk it together first. I use a Waring quick stick blender, and I barely pulse it on low just to get it just under emulsification. If I go beyond that point, I find that my batter will just get too thick on me, and for this particular design, I need my batter to be nice and thin. I get my fragrance oil directly into my entire pot of oils and lye solution because I find that this is just what works best for me. I know some soap makers prefer to add their fragrance oils into their colors once their colors are all created and their batter is separated, but I don't have very good luck with that method because I find that sometimes I add a little bit too much fragrance oil to one color and then that color starts to thicken up on me, and I just don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to stick blend a little bit more, and once I get that emulsification or just under emulsification, I'm going to weigh my entire contents of the pitcher here. Now I have the measurement for my pitcher that I'm using. I already know how much that weighs. So what I'm doing here is just weighing the entire contents and doing a little bit of math. I'm subtracting the weight of the pitcher itself so that I can divide just the weight of the batter into 6 for my 6 different colors here. Now after I do my math, I know that I need about 9 ounces per color. So I'm just going to take my individual funnel pitchers here and measure about 9 ounces in each pitcher. And on this one, I accidentally over poured a little bit, so I'm just putting a little bit of that batter back into the pot. And I apologize in advance that I couldn't get the pours all on camera here. I'm kind of working with a weird setup right now. I have my phone balancing on my kitchen cabinet, so I'm not able to get a complete view of everything, so I do apologize for that. And here, even though this is my last pitcher and it's the remaining batter, I'm just weighing it to see if I'm super under the 9 ounces so that I can add a little bit from some of the pitchers I may have gone just a little bit over on, but it looks like I've got enough. Even though that color has a little bit less, it'll be fine. So what I'm going to do now is just get my individual colors into their respective pitchers. I'm not going to mix them in until they're all in their pitchers. And I do this because I find that if you start mixing one color, it might start to set up on you faster than the other ones. So I really want to try to control the trace on all of these colors, and I want them to all trace around the same time so that they're all the same consistency and I'm not dealing with some thicker than others. And what I'm going to do now is just hand mix my colors in with their spatulas. I'm no longer going to use my stick blender at this point because after making an assessment of the batter, I see that it is exactly where I need it to be. And how I know that my colors are essentially the right consistency is when I take the spatula and I kind of drizzle the batter onto the surface. If the batter kind of sinks in, then I know that it's too thin. If the batter kind of builds on top of each other on the surface, then I know that my batter is getting set up on me and it might get too thick. But if I drizzle it on the surface and it kind of rests right on top and it melts its way back into the batter, then I know that it's the perfect consistency. And what I'm going to do now is just arrange my pitchers in the order that I want to pour in. I'm going to have 2 rows of 3 colors. This will just kind of be easier for me to make sure I'm doing it in the correct order. And I'm just placing my column and trying to get it as centered as possible. I apologize that the top view is showing mostly the thick base of the column, but I will make sure I move the camera and show how cool the design is looking as I am pouring these colors. Look how cool that design is looking. It's super trippy looking. I was not expecting the design to come out the way that it is, and it looks so much different than the Coke bottle. The Coke bottle only had 5 grooves where the soap batter kind of dripped down on the sides, and this one has 9 grooves. But one thing that I noticed with this particular vase, this column, is that the batter was not just going down into the grooves, it was also kind of dripping down slightly in between the grooves on the flatter sides of the mold. So it just had this really kind of cool, trippy design that it was leaving behind. And I'm starting to kind of run out of my colors here, but I'm saving just a little bit so that when I pull this vase out of the mold, that I can kind of pour manually a little bit of each color into the center, because as you'll see, once I pull this vase up, it's going to look kind of muddied in the middle. I'm just kind of gently pulling this out and trying to make sure I don't get a ton of drippage, but you can see there right in the center where the picture came out, or where the vase came out, that it's really muddied. And there were a couple little bubbles that I noticed once I pulled the vase. I'm just popping those very gently, but look how cool that design is. It looks super, super trippy and cool. I just could not get over how excited I was with this. So I'm using the last little bits of the batter to put right into the center here, and we're just doing that so that when we take the glass rod skewer and we kind of drag it through the design, that there's some cool colors in the middle to kind of get swirled as well, and it fixes that kind of muddied area that I was talking about before. Okay, and now it's the scary part. We're gonna take our skewer and drag it through the design. I'm just doing some zigzags about 3 inches down diagonally and upwards as well. I'm doing about 6 zigzags on the longer sides and 4 on the shorter sides. I noticed that my, once I pulled the vase up, that the design was not perfectly centered, and it's fine. I'm not sure how it got shifted, but it is what it is. So I'm just kind of doing these zigzags. And then the next and last step that I'm going to do is take my skewer and make an X with like a swirly wave right through the center. So I just go from one corner and one side to the other, creating kind of a wavy X. And that's it. I'm leaving it just the way it is. I really wanted to leave some of the pattern that the vase itself created as the soap was poured, but just wanted to kind of swirl it together and have a really cool effect. I named the soap Peacock Tails because the colors are definitely reminiscent of a peacock and their feathers, but also this was such a challenging design for me. It took me so long to get a design that I really liked, so it's kind of the story behind this particular design. So it's kind of a play on words, you know, peacock tails. It's like the tail of a peacock, but also the story tale of the soap. Just in case you weren't getting what I was putting down, I felt I needed to explain that a little bit. But this is the final soap, and I just want to make a note here that this soap ended up having a ton of soda ash, and it was so deep into the soap that it could not be salvaged. I truly believe that it happened because I was being impatient and I decided to open the mold and unmold the soap way too early. So next time I would definitely not unmold the soap for at least 2 days, because this is such a fluid soap. It definitely needs a little bit more time to harden and not be exposed to the air as the lye is saponifying with the oils. So because I was absolutely determined to make this design work, because I thought that it had a lot of potential, I decided to redo it a couple different times, and I finally got a result that I was super happy with. I'm just going to share the pictures here of the soap so you can all see what the soap ended up looking like. I also wanted to note that for my successful batch here, I did soap at slightly warmer temperatures. I'm not sure if that helped contribute to the success of the design, but I thought it should be mentioned here. Instead of soaping at 81 to 83 degrees, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I soaped around 93 to 95 degrees. And my soap was perfect. I left it in the mold for an entire weekend because I was away camping and I was not able to be impatient, thankfully. And it seemed to pay off because the soap was incredibly vibrant. There was minimal soda ash, and I was able to plane my bars perfectly. I was just really happy to have a result that I was finally happy with. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more future content, soap related, of course. Until next time, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.